And welcome back to another edition of the On the Blitz Sports Podcast. I am your host, Will Chiarucci, aka Will C, coming to you from Long Island, New York. It's Tuesday, and I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Shawn Thomas, aka Shawn T. Shawn, what's going on over in your neck of the woods right now?
Well, I'm doing good, reporting live from Rosedale, Queens. Not too shabby. The weather today was kind of crazy. Well, it went from spring to fall to winter to summer, back to spring. But all is well, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Can't complain right now. Just hanging in and having it's just crazy, what's going on. And again, what other news is there to talk about today? There's a lot of things going on for sure. But we'll start off first with the trade news that happened today. Rob Gronkowski goes over to the Tampa Bay Bucs in exchange, along with the 7th-round pick, in exchange for a 4th-round pick. So New England acquires a 4th-round pick for him. Tampa Bay right now, arguably probably the best team, quote unquote, on paper right now, with Brady, Gronkowski, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. You want to throw O.J. Mayo in there? O.J. Mayo. I'm thinking of the basketball player. O.J. Howard in that mix as well. But looks like he's probably going to get moved for draft considerations right now at this point. But again, we'll see what happens come Thursday and, up to the NFL draft for sure. But Shawn, before we talk about the Tampa Bay Bucs, New England, he didn't play in a year with the New England Patriots, and Belichick found a way to scheme and disguise things with his offense, and Josh McDaniels did a good job with Tom Brady for sure. But what impact do you see the New England Patriots trading away a guy like Rob Gronkowski?
Well, I think it's an impact where I think for the Patriots, it won't affect them much because he wasn't there. They didn't really fill that void last season. They had a chance to take tight end from Alabama in the draft last year, Irv Smith. Instead, he went for N'Keal and Harry. And Irv Smith had a pretty good recent year, had a pretty good rookie year. So I'm pretty sure they're going to try and fill that tight end void in this draft. But for Tampa Bay, it's a slam dunk for two reasons. One, we know the connection that Gronk and Brady has. It's very good. I think Gronk caught over like 70-something touchdowns.
Yeah.
So it was really, really good. But number two, Gronk, like you said, Gronk did not play for a whole year. He's arrested. The guy just won a WWE belt. Like he's out there having fun and he's doing his thing, but he's rested. And I read a report that everybody thinks it was the physical part that made him hang up the cleats. It was really the emotional part and the mental part, because a lot of people don't understand the Patriot way is a real thing. Bill Belichick runs a very tight ship, and it's his way or you got to go. And that could take a toll on guys depending on the type of lifestyle that they have or that they don't have. So I think it's a slam dunk for Tampa Bay. Like you said, this probably means that O.J. Howard is going to get moved. We have to see what the contract, the details are for Gronk. But I think it's a slam dunk for Tampa Bay. And if you're the Patriots, I think the Patriots have the second most picks in the draft. You get another 4th-round pick. I'm pretty sure they're going to package those picks and try and move up to get some of the premium guys.
And you look at the Patriots right now, right, in the division that's already set. You have the Buffalo Bills right now, who are the favorite in that AFC East. There's no mistake about it right now at that point in time. Anytime you lose out on Tom Brady, and yes, we did allude to the fact that Rob Gronkowski did not play a year in the NFL. And he won a WWE championship. He's living the life. Make no mistake about that. But let's understand this from this perspective with New England, okay? Let's not count them out at all They still have Bill Belichick there. Robert Kraft is still the owner. Josh McDaniels is still the offensive coordinator. But their quarterbacking situation is just absolutely downright awful. Now, with that said, they could go out and acquire a guy like Andy Dalton, Cam Newton, perhaps in free agency. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen up there. But for them, and even their tight end situation too, it's not that deep. They have 3 tight ends right now on their roster, but it's not that deep with the household name of a guy like a Rob Gronkowski, albeit he didn't play for a year. Now, you look at what Tampa Bay is doing right now. Tampa Bay has Gronkowski for a year. And then after that, they could be like, you know what, Rob, if they see a dip in his production, which probably won't happen with Tom being over there, with Brady being there, and with the Byron Leftwich being the offensive coordinator and stuff like that, with Bruce Arians, we got to see what happens. We got to see what happens down over there. And they still have one of the league's best rushing defenses. Shawn, I know you alluded to it 3 weeks ago on the show, statistically anyway. So there's a lot to be said, of course, as well. And listen, for Tampa Bay, year in and year out, when they had Jameis Winston as their quarterback, it was always, well, we're waiting on the potential to see how Jameis is as a quarterback and everything like that. And Mike Evans is a great receiver, but, you know, the throws that Jameis makes, not going to be there. Now, can you imagine if you're Mike Evans and even Chris Godwin, having a guy like Gronkowski there, taking some of the attention away of detail away from those two, and that gets placed on that, you know, on Gronkowski for sure. It's just absolutely unbelievable. It really is. And not only that too, but from what I saw Eric Sanchez, our friend of the show, went out and basically said that Gronkowski is a great blocking tight end as well. Big body, go out there, could play on the run. You know, wrestling, got that wrestling style now, so he could go out there and outmaneuver the guys. So that was also a pretty key, interesting component as well. And, you know, Shawn, when you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now, there's a lot of hope with them. Now that this deal has happened, are they the favorites coming out of the NFC South now?
Well, I'll still say the Saints, only because the Saints' issue isn't winning the division or making it to the playoffs. The Saints, you could make a case they've gotten robbed 3 straight years in the well, not robbed. They had the Stephon Diggs catch 3 years ago. And 2 years ago, the non-call with the Rams, and last year, the call that made Vikings score, they lost in overtime, blah, blah, blah. I still think that it's the Saints, but I think Tampa Bay has definitely passed the Panthers, and I think they definitely passed the Falcons as well. So I think it'll be them and the Saints battling it out. But it's funny that you mentioned taking the pressure off of Godwin and Mike and Evans. Well, I don't think Gronk is going to play that much from the 20 to the 20, if you get what I'm trying to say. I think if they keep OJ, or even if they don't, you have enough players to get you from your own 20 to the other team's 20. I think they're going to utilize Gronk in the red zone, where him and Brady are money in the bank. That's where I think they're really going to utilize him, especially on those 3rd and 2s, the play action pass, and he's a mismatch. Will, can you picture a 3-receiver set where they have Evans on one side, Gronk on the other side, and Chris Godwin in the slot? That is lethal.
It's a scary thing. It really is a scary thing, and especially with a pocket passer like Tom Brady, for sure, being in there and having the experience that he has over the course of 20 years. We'll see what happens down there. One thing, though, that I do want to get on here as far as, you know, the move for Gronkowski is the ripple effects now that are going to take place in the next couple of days, because we know that the NFL draft is coming up. And listen, we know that in that NFC South, you're going to see the Carolina Panthers if Isaiah Simmons falls down to number 7, he's going to get the call from the Carolina Panthers. I don't think the Panthers are going to make any mistake about that, not taking a guy like that for sure. And especially not having Luke Kuechly there either after retiring. That is also a big thing. The Falcons, what are the Falcons going to do? Are they going to actually trade up now with like we said before in a couple of shows prior? Are they going to go out there and trade up to number 11 for the Jets pick? It's heavily rumored and it's heavily talked about in some of these, blogs and with some of these reporters that come out and basically say that, so will they go out there and make a trade to try and better themselves here in that situation and make one more run at a Vince Lombardi title run? That's something that can happen. And then the Saints, we know that the Saints went out there and basically said it. They went out after Emmanuel Sanders. They got Sanders. And they went out and they got Drew Brees back. He's basically on the final year of his deal. And that defense is still stacked. And you're having a 12th man at the Superdome. It's just absolutely nuts. So we'll see the ripple effects in the next couple of days for sure. Because, man, I'm going to tell you something right here. Every year that NFC South always changes up. And the Tampa Bay Bucs fans are definitely hyped for sure.
Well, the final thing I'm gonna say on the Falcons is I think this is the Falcons' last year in terms of trying to make this work. A lot of people thought Dan Quinn was gonna get fired at the end of last year, but they won their last 3 games and they showed some hope. So him and the GM came back. If they're not competitive and if they don't make the playoffs, I think Atlanta's gonna blow up the whole thing, and we could see Matt Ryan gone, Julio Jones gone, so on and so forth. So it's a bad year for Tom Brady to come to Tampa Bay if you're them, because the expectations are going to be high. But as like you said too, the Saints, they brought in Emmanuel Sanders. Brees is back. Their backup quarterback situation is a question mark because Bridgewater went to the Panthers. So now your backup is Taysom Hill, but they like to use Taysom Hill in these little trick plays, gadget plays, so you don't want to play your backup like that. So it's going to be very interesting to see if one of the quarterbacks fall down to the Saints pick at 24, and if the Saints pull the trigger on the future or they take a player to win now. That's going to be a very interesting thing.
It's definitely going to be a very interesting thing, Shawn. Make no mistake about it, man. That NFC South is going to be crazy now. A lot of and the trade really happened so fast too. You look at basically at around like noon, we heard the story that the Buccaneers were looking at Gronkowski, and then basically at around like 2:00, 3:00, we find out the news that Gronkowski is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. But hey, crazier things have happened, So transitioning now from the whole Rob Gronkowski story, going over to the NBA world now, and it's not really so much so of the NBA. It's more so of the Last Dance documentary that came out on Sunday, Shawn. And, growing up in that era, I know you're a couple of years older than me, and you basically had probably more memories of that 97, 98 Bulls team. But me, I only remember the Jordan shot going down and basically him playing with the Wizards. But it definitely brings back memories of being a kid growing up during that time and having to hear all about Michael Jordan, seeing the video footage, seeing the players, everything like that. So, Shawn, I'm going to let you take this one right now. I'm going to let you have the reins on this. What did you think of the whole Last Dance Part 1 and 2 documentary?
I felt the first 2 episodes were very well done, very well shot. It's one of those things where, you get to see the inside glimpse of these guys, and it's really footage that we don't get a chance to see day in, day out. So, in part 1, we really got to learn to know Michael and his upbringing and his brothers and his mom and his dad and so on and so forth. And it's crazy how a lot of people forget Michael Jordan only played 2 years of high school basketball. I think a lot of people forget his freshman year, he didn't go off for the team. And his sophomore year, he did not make the varsity team. A lot of people forget Michael Jordan had 2 high school years. So I think that kind of made people kind of remember that possibly the greatest player that ever played really started playing at a older age than where people would really start. So that was very interesting to see. But well, the thing that bothered me the most, and it didn't really bother me, but as we saw in episode 1 and 2, the Bulls and Michael Jordan and Scotty, them and Jerry Krause, they didn't really get along well. Jerry Krause wanted to end the run. He wanted Phil gone, and he wanted to end the run at 5. And it's really the owner of the Bulls that had to come in and say, listen, I think we could squeeze one more run out of these guys. Well, the part that bothers me is Jerry Krause died 3 years ago. So he's not going to get a chance to defend himself, or we won't get a chance to hear his side of things because he's no longer here.
Right.
So stuff like this makes me wish that this would have came out 4 years ago, where Jerry Krause could have said, hey, this is why I wanted to end the run. Because, well, we would never know why he wanted to break it up from his standpoint. All we're going to hear is Jordan's point of view and Jerry Reinsdorf point of view and Pippen and Phil Jackson, blah, blah, blah. So it was very interesting to see that front. And a lot of people forget the Bulls had to make some moves to get that team. And that's what you saw in part 1 and part 2. Rodman was not drafted by the Bulls. They had to sign him. Mm-hmm. Scottie Pippen was not drafted by the Bulls. Seattle drafted him, and they had to make a draft day trade to bring him on. Mm-hmm. Bill Cartwright played for the Knicks. The Bulls traded Charles Oakley. A lot of people forget Oakley was not a lifelong Knick. He was on the Bulls.
That's right.
So I think this documentary really shows the building of a championship team, and it kind of reminds me of Golden State, where Golden State, they drafted Steph, and they drafted Draymond, and they drafted Clay. The Bulls, Jordan got drafted, Kukoc, the same thing, but they had to go there and they had to make the deals for Pippen and Rodman, John, Sally as well, because he got cut and they had to sign him. So I'm glad that we got the glimpse to see how they constructed the team. But, well, it just sucks that Jerry Krause is no longer here, and we will never get to hear his side of why he wanted to end things at 5 instead of 6.
My favorite part of this whole documentary is the fact that, they go back and it's great how you get to see some of these people that started up in Chicago, guys like Bob Costas. He was there from basically the beginning of the 80s. He's doing his own thing. And how ironic is it enough that he called Jordan's last shot? Basically how the Bulls were constructed during the beginning of the 80s. They were basically not getting sellouts at all, nothing like that. They had an indoor soccer team outdraw them at one point in time. And the Blackhawks were the Blackhawks, but they weren't winning anything. And they still had that popular fan base, Then you look at the 1984 draft and why the Portland Trailblazers selected, and it's always gonna be like that for years. And you always have your pundits about, they should have drafted. No, you didn't. They had Clyde Drexler in his prime.
Yeah.
Clyde Drexler in his prime.
Right.
So how is Clyde Drexler and a young rookie Michael Jordan going to go at it? Trying to fit on that court. That's absolutely astounding and mind-blowing to me how some people actually blow that out of proportion. Listen, I'll be the first one to be honest with you here. 10 times out of 10 in that situation, I would have drafted Sam Bowie at that point in time as well. I'll admit that, because at that point in time, the big man was dominant. The big man was basically getting played, getting the most minutes. That's the way how you scored. And basketball back then was much different. I think that's something that we have to realize as fans.
Yeah.
So I would definitely 10 times out of 10, I would go Sam Bowie any day of the week. And you don't know what Michael Jordan's going to be. You know what I mean? 2 days, 2 years playing high school ball, playing down at Carolina, everything like that. I'll be the first one to admit that. I know I'm going to sound like a dummy, and I know that whatever it is, what it is. But, you know, that's the way how the game was played back then.
Good.
So, and even the first pick, Akeem Olajuwon, 7 foot, the moves, playing up with Ralph Sampson at that point in time. Guys,
Yeah.
let's slow our roll here for a second and not question some of these guys and why, this is the greatest debate, who the bust is, everything like that. Doesn't matter. These guys had solid careers no matter how you look at it. They played in the NBA, and, that's pretty much about it. But the great part about it was to look at the Bulls. 3 years, they had an under 500 record their first year with Jordan. Second year, they had an under 500 record. Still made the playoffs, I believe, with a 30-52 record. That's pretty amazing, especially in that day and age. And, you have Bird and the Celtics. And they, in the 85-86 year, they had the best home team, winning 31 straight home games at that point in time. I have the DVD out upstairs in my room. I occasionally watch that game where Jordan dropped 63, and he played on a broken foot. He was coming back and playing off of a broken foot.
Yeah.
And playing up against that team, arguably the best team in the NBA at that time, in NBA history at that time, was just absolutely amazing. Makes you, wonder what happens with MJ and, the building up of the years. And then after that, we look at the Scottie Pippen and what happened with Scottie. And he took the contract, which was 7 years worth about $18 million at that time, right? And everybody, I didn't know that. And I asked myself, why did Scottie Pippen leave? And well, I know why he left now at that point in time, why he went over to Houston and trying to form that big three and make the money that he tried to make when he could. But again, it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't type of things. And with Scottie being the second best player on that team and being probably the second best player in the league, going out there and just playing well off of Michael, that's just absolutely unbelievable right there, to say the very least. But, it is what it is. And when you look at it, when you look at the Bulls and you look at what had happened and what they went through, right? I guess parts 3 and 4 are going to probably cover the Jordan rules, them going up against the Detroit Piston bad boy teams in the late 80s, going up against in the early 90s. And they'll probably cover the first championship in which they beat the Los Angeles Lakers. We'll see that for sure. But it's definitely going to be interesting. And, with the way how that year in 97, 98 started out in part 2, they lost. They tried to find their way without Scottie, and it was just pretty bad. But they wound up finding their way, and, that's how good teams find themselves. And if people that are going to be watching this and, veterans in the NBA are going to find themselves watching this, it takes a little adversity. You got to go through some losing points in order to succeed. And if you learn from your losing ways, you'll go out there and you'll win. And that's what the 97, 98 Bulls did. But, hey, overall for me, great time. Great time watching it. Brought back a lot of memories from my childhood. And, it was just very interesting to see the characters, Jerry Krause, how he was portrayed by Jordan and by everybody else, the media being there, getting to see Steve Kerr, young Steve Kerr going from Bulls player, winning a championship, John Paxson being a part of the Bulls at that point in time, Charles Oakley being with the Bulls at that particular point in time as well. Very interesting. I loved it. I give it a 5 out of 5. I can only imagine what parts 3 and 4 are going to be like come up on Sunday.
Yeah, Scottie said that he signed the deal because it was the end of it, because he was going to the last year of his rookie deal. And I think a lot of people forget. Scottie Pippen is from a very small town in Arkansas.
Yeah.
He didn't
Well,
go
everybody
to
knows about it now after
right,
watching it.
right. He didn't go to Duke, Kentucky, um, uh, and these big time schools. He went to Central Arkansas,
Right.
NAIA school at the time. So for him, and he said it, 18 million bucks, even though it was spread out across 7 years, 18 million bucks. He had to take it because it's not that he didn't want to bet on himself, but 18 million bucks to a, I don't want to call him poor, but 18 million bucks to a young kid coming out of Arkansas, Central Arkansas, is a boatload of cash. And it's not even his fault because as we saw, the NBA signed the new deal the year after. So the money was coming in from the TV and the sponsors. So contracts were going up and up and up. And and it came to a point where in that 97, 98 year, he was the sixth highest paid player on his own team.
Right.
Harper made more than him. Rodman made more than him. Obviously, Mike made more than him too. So it was one of those things where it was like, I could see why he held out. But yeah, so that was a very interesting. One of the funny quotes was when the Bulls had won the fifth ring, and Jordan is in the press conference, and a reporter says, there's talk of this being the last run and the rebuild happening. And Jordan says, the Cubs have been trying to rebuild for 42 years. That was hilarious.
Right.
That was funny as hell. So, I mean, so yeah, I mean, to get the quotes and to see the behind the scenes stuff and to see that, well, what I hope to see between parts 3 to the end of part 10, I really want to see how the triangle in offense was created and structured. Because some of the greatest players to ever play this game played in it. Michael, Rodman, Scotty, Kobe, Shaq, Pau Gasol, so on and so forth. They played in that system.
Right.
So I really, really want to see how it was created, and two, how did Phil structure that triangle to make guys fit, because Phil wasn't going to change what he ran. You had to fit what he did.
And the best thing about Phil Jackson too is, when they mentioned about Scotty being a distraction, he was like, just let it run its course. Let the team play. Let Michael be that guy to, carry the team. And he wasn't the type of guy that was going to go out there and make any type of personal moves. And that's the one thing with Phil that I learned about him as, being a Laker fan and watching him. He had his way about going about things. If his team wasn't playing well, he wasn't going to call a timeout. He was going to let that team find his way out of that whole hole. And once that happened, that's when things started to happen for Phil and for the Lakers. So the same thing happened with him and the Bulls as well. So, like I said, great documentary. Really brings me back memories, and you're seeing a lot of people that are our age right now, or even a year or two older than us, talking about this. I remember on Twitter, I saw Kyle Okposo, Buffalo Sabres winger, used to play for the Islanders for a really long time, and he basically said that he remembers how the Bulls three-peat, the second three-peat, literally, he remembers that, and that was before he went to before he wound up skating or something like that. I got to look at that tweet. But yeah, it's just absolutely nuts, seeing stories like that. And, even our own Brandon Robinson, Scoop B, who came on the show. Shout out to Scoop. Always got to give him a shout out. Basically saying that he first started reporting in 97, 98 as a kid. So pretty amazing right there. Pretty amazing stuff. And yeah, it's just fun. It's just fun to see stories like this.
Well, it's always good to hear when greatness realizes greatness in someone else. And the point I'm going to say is, um, I forgot who was talking about it in part one, but they said Michael Jordan became the best player on the Bulls within 2 weeks of his
Oh yeah.
rookie. 2 weeks.
Yep.
And you know this is the best player on the team.
Yep.
And it reminded me of when we spoke to Corey uh, uh, Homicide Row, when we spoke to him and we interviewed him. Shout out to him. And it reminded me of when he said, because actually, well, no, it was within the 2 weeks, but they had played, I think it was the Bucs. And I think it was Sidney Lewis or some guy, or like
Sidney
some
Moncrief.
Sidney Moncrief. He had won the Defensive Player of the Year the year before.
Right.
And the Bucs were kicking the Bulls' butt, blah, blah, blah. And Jordan in that game gave Sidney Moncrief the business. Like he was hitting jumpers over him, layups. And it reminded me of when we interviewed Corey the other day. And he said, LaMelo Ball, in his first game, played the two-time reigning Defensive Player of the Year down in the NBL. And he almost put up a triple double in his first game against the reigning Defensive Player of the Year. And
Right.
Corey said he knew that was the first pick in the draft right there. So it's always, interesting to hear when greatness sees another player that's great, identifying, like this guy is the best player, that guy's the best player. And you don't need that body of work. You could just tell off of one game. Or in Mike's case, 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we'll definitely see what happens though with the NBA draft coming up with LaMelo Ball, like you said, drawing some comparisons right there. And like I said, with the whole Jordan documentary and the whole Last Dance with the 97, 98 Bulls, it's definitely going to be talked about because everybody, the lasting image of Michael is him hitting the shot against Byron Russell, and just it's just so great how everything's going to be put back in. So, Shawn, you have any final thoughts on this?
yes. Well, can we please put this to bed? Michael Jordan pushed off. Michael Jordan pushed off against that shot. Russell went flying, and as you see, Jordan's left hand clearly was in his ribs, and he kind of pushed him over. So I think it was probably the greatest non-call in that six championship run. But aside from that, well, shout out to Eric Sanchez of Real Fan, Real Talk Legend, and 2Game. He interviewed you and me for his show. And just shout out to the whole crew, to Sierra, Emerald, and Trip. Hope those guys are doing well. So look out for that vlog and that episode coming from Legend in 2 Games on Instagram.
Yep. Shout out to Legend in 2 Games, Eric Sanchez. He's out there killing it each and every day, putting out the content that he does. And, realistically, my final thought is just go out and every day we're going to keep on putting out content, whether it be on YouTube or through the podcast or, however you want to look at it. And, the other day, I think yesterday or today, we put out the episode for Brian Hoach. So shout out to Brian. Be on the lookout for Danielle McCartan's episode to come out. And, and even Alex Monaco. And we're going to have on guest galore coming up these next couple of weeks on the On the Board Sports podcast. We may be doing 2 firsts at that point in time, with this whole situation right now going on. But, hey, you got to make your name out. You got to throw your name out there, So that's the way how we roll.
And me and Will are working on the big guests. Wink, wink. If you're a Brooklyn Nets fan, you're going to like who this guest potentially could be. Nothing is signed yet. Nothing is official yet. But me and Will are certainly trying to fax those papers in to bring that person on.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you tomorrow, bud. All right. We'll definitely talk some more with sports going on for sure. Every day there's always something breaking, and we're only literally just about 48 hours away from the NFL draft. Pretty amazing, huh?
Well, did you see that they had a glitch with the first pick?
That
They
was,
did
I
the
think that
mock
was from
draft.
CBS Sports, I think. That was from CBS Sports, and it was just a parody account. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I'm like, what the hell? The hell's going on? So, all right, well, I'll talk to you soon, pal. And yeah. So if you haven't watched the documentary, check it out. And Gronk is a Buccaneer. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought it, man? And just again, for anybody out there that's essential, I'm going to keep on repeating it till the cows come home. Cop, fireman, truck driver, EMT worker, grocery store worker, fast food worker, construction worker, whoever you may be out there, even a news reporter. News reporters are deemed essential. Just want to say thank you for going out there and just making things still work and giving us the news, food, content, whatever it is that we survive off of. So we just say thank you. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. So thank you guys. Just hopefully you guys are staying safe and, stay healthy. And, time on this earth isn't granted to nobody for sure. So we have to just be thankful for the time on this earth, 100%. For Shawn Thomas, my wonderful co-host, wherever you may be in Queens, I am your host, Will Chiarucci, a.k.a. We'll See, logging out from Long Island, New York. We will talk to you guys soon. Peace out. Be safe. Be healthy.